everyone, Richard Carlton here. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. We want to welcome a whole bunch of people on Discord, YouTube, and Twitch. We're broadcasting in, I guess, triple cast. I used to call it simulcast, but when you keep broadcasting on different media streams, right? What do you call that? Like multicast. So welcome to fmtraining.tv. The upcoming broadcast schedule is right here. So today is an interesting conversation today. I think you folks are in a real treat. The title doesn't sound very much, but it should be like explosions and stuff like that. It's pretty much a big deal. It's a really big deal. And so we'll be diving into that shortly. I want to welcome Jacob Taylor, who is my distant wingman today. Are you here today, Jacob Taylor? Operator.
I am sorry. The request came while I was drinking water.
All right. Yep. No, that's no problem. And then Monday we've got some open Q&A with Nick Hunter, and then we start kind of into this next week. It's kind of a weird week. It's the week before we dive into the CRM. So we're doing a deep dive for beginners. So for all of you, as a reminder, a bunch of you are very seasoned, experienced developers, but if you know people who are new, you want to have them start dialing in to the live stream the following Monday right after this. This is off our website, fmtrain.tv. If you go to live, you'll see, guess what? We eat our own dog food here. Woof, woof. It's our own dog food. This is some data API action. It's reading data right out of FileMaker, showing you the next 6 broadcasts live. And so you don't see what's on day 7 out from here, but that Monday is day 1 of a 30-day stretch where we're starting with beginners and we're going back to the basics, right? It's like the anti-Nick. So if Nick is matter and I'm anti-matter, they don't go together, right? So it's going to be very exciting. So if you have people who are new to FileMaker in your lives and they want to get up to speed in a meaningful way, then come to that, because what we're going to do is we have the brand new FM starting point. It's a free CRM. For those of you out there who know about this, have been around. In fact, I've got a call from a couple competing companies. The CEOs of those companies call me and go, Richard, this is really amazing. It's free? Yes, it's totally free. Can we take it and steal it? I said, well, yeah, as long as you don't resell it and use it for a customer project or whatever. And if they ask where the great design came from, feel free. I mean, it may be awkward for you to say that Richard did that, but that's kind of what happened, right? So if you come here to the website, this is the definitive standard for CRMs in the FileMaker community. There are thousands and thousands of FileMaker projects running this software. So we have a new version of it that's out. We'll talk about that. You can come down here, grab the beta of it. It's unlocked. It's free. There's no strings attached to it, totally free. And then we have the older ones here, which have a slightly different design style. You kind of see this new design style. It's called the neomorphism design style. It's not something I invented. This comes from Apple, frankly, mostly, in Facebook, and a couple companies that kind of steal design ideas off each other, and they kind of propel the world of design forward. Kind of the Johnny Ive of UI. That's kind of what this stuff is. So anyway, so that's FM starting point. We'll be starting an intensive conversation that Monday right there. So let's talk about today's broadcast, and because today is really, 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 really interesting. And I'm going to pop this up real quick if I can find where it went. So this is a reminder. The 30-day free training series. Someone came to me the other day and said, hey, we're going to do a free training series. We're going to teach people how to use FileMaker. And they're like, yeah, we're really awesome. I'm like, cool, what are you doing? Well, 1 hour every month, we're going to teach people how to use FileMaker. I said, well, if you come to our event, we're going to teach you 1 hour every day. And we're going to start with the basics, and we're going to move all the way up through more advanced topics. By the end of the month, you will have your own custom CRM that you can run, right? Pretty cool stuff. So let's talk about today's conversation. Today's conversation is interesting. And the whole sleigh ride started about 10 days ago when Claris had this meeting with their CEO and a couple other people, and they basically in 10 minutes, they basically did almost like 10 years worth of announcements in 10 minutes. I keep explaining to them that they gave us too much in a confined space. It was too much stuff. It wasn't bad, except for one thing, in my opinion, but it wasn't bad, but it was too much. My little brain, it's taken me a week and a half, 2 weeks to kind of process it. So what I've done from that conversation, I've had follow-up conversation with Claris, actually a number of them, some of them face-to-face, to bring you this information directly. And what I'm doing is we're going to focus just on the licensing part of the conversation because this is a huge part of it. I know they talked about the future version of FileMaker and the widgets that are in there, and we're working to get the VP of engineering to come and spend some time with us and talk about some of that stuff. But today is just about licensing because, in my opinion, to be honest with you and everyone there, I've been a little concerned about Claris, right? I've been a little bit concerned about Claris, and so and my concern was that they were still treating everything like it was 1990 to a degree, right? They weren't selling software in boxes in stores anymore. For those of you who are less than 30 years old, in the old days, that's how you bought software. You went to Circuit City or CompUSA or someplace like that, and there was a box of FileMaker on the shelf, kind of like going to Walmart. And they sell it online, but they still have these processes and these thoughts about this. And we've been worried about this for a while. We're like, damn. And so somewhere along the line, over the last week or the last couple months, the lights came on at Claris in a big way. And I remember the developers like climbing up. The Brad Freitag is a CEO, nice guy. They climbed. I'm just going to speak frankly here to everyone. They climbed up his about a year ago, and I stayed out of that. But they were like, yeah, we're really worried. You guys got to get it together. Blah 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 blah. And and of course, Claris was like, they listened and then they kind of went away. And then last week they came back and was kind of their response. Wham, right? And the response, frankly, is quite good. So I'm not saying yell at the CEO. That's never a good thing. But yeah, I don't. Let's just talk about the results of what transpired. So let's cover that. So some of you are developers here today. Some of you are new to FileMaker. The conversation today is mostly about if you want to be a developer, you should probably learn this. If you're already a developer, you should know this and understand what this means to you and maybe your customers. And for some of you, it may not be applicable, but if you're a developer, you should know this, right? You just shouldn't ignore the licensing just because you don't feel like it. You need to kind of know this stuff because, frankly, Claris is simplifying it in a great way. So just a perfunctory boilerplate. Claris is part of Apple. I told them, hey, if you just really want to get like super religion, we just don't even call it Claris. Let's call it Apple FileMaker or something like that. And of course, they didn't think that was very funny. I'm like, well, if you want a name that's immediately recognized, right? So Claris is a wholly owned subsidiary. They're in an Apple building. They have Apple IT. They're practically a department of Apple, but they have their own little structure and their own little profit and loss unit. So they make money and they spend money, etc. So they make really awesome software. Why am I here? Why have I been doing this for 33 years? Because their software is awesome. It allows you to do some really amazing things. For example, we're going to come up next week and in the next week, following week, we're going to be starting this conversation about building your own custom CRM. And this is kind of what a screenshot of that software. It's already available. You can download this. This is the new neomorphism design style, right? And so it's a little bit different, but this is totally free. If you have to build this from scratch, this is about 100 grand worth of software built. Well, I'm giving it to you totally free. All you have to do is learn how to customize it. Go into kind of a design mode and delete things you don't need and move things around and add a couple fields you need. And that's a great way to get yourself onboarded into the platform. It's really great. Next slide. So let's talk about some important things that transpired last week. And I'm framing the conversation. We're going to get to the point here very quickly. Claris identified, we're going to do all this stuff. We're going to do all this stuff. We're going to do all this stuff. It's amazing. It's the most amazing thing ever. But they got to this screen right here. And this is such a big deal. And so what this is I guess the new marketing term is your North Stars. It's what you believe in. They used to call it a mission statement, a core mission statement or whatever. But these are like a guiding principle, shall we say, right? And so the idea is that the first one is the one we're going to be talking about today mostly, and not even so much what those items are, but this really should say licensing and friction. This should say licensing, and it does say friction. Then this is some other technical stuff here. This is some other integration stuff. And this is, we don't break the out of everything y'all, if you're from the South in the United States, y'all have built, okay? So we don't want to break what you've already built. That's really great. As a developer, yeah, that would be really great if you didn't break everything I had. But I want to talk about this because this is the critic. The rest of this is technology. They're integrating technology, but it's bringing new people in the platform one, and um, and encouraging expansion of the use of the platform. So either it's expansion with two different things. One, brand new people, and those are the people I talk to personally the most. And then there's expansion of customers who already have the product, which is kind of what we're discussing today. So this character right here, this is Ryan McCann. This is the vice president of sales. He's been there with kind of this new management team for about 8 years. And there's been this ongoing, I want to say, learning process, this evolution. And I'm not in any way picking on this guy. I have the deepest respect for what he's done. And he came into the organization as a successful sales manager, and Brad was the vice president of sales. And there was a thought process like what they understood was that Claris was out of date, doing it the old way, and they were trying to find the best way forward. Well, um, if you're here long enough and you spend enough time in the FileMaker community, you start to figure out what people need and what they want. And over the years, him and Brad have been working together along with other people at Claris to develop a real good understanding really of what they want. Because when you first come to the FileMaker platform, it doesn't matter whether you're a developer or you're Ryan or Brad or any of these senior executives, you don't know anything. You're brand new, your first day on the planet, you don't know. So they had to go to school kind of and learn, and they're learning kind of on the job. And that's kind of what they were doing for a number of years before they moved into the senior management roles. And so uh, one of that is understanding the points of friction. And initially, when Ryan came in, he didn't understand what the points of friction were, and he would never want to. It's always about where you're at today and where we're going today, and I'm gonna cover that. But what I want to say is that it's been a journey. It's why the developers were previously, some of you watching this, were exercised. Oh, they're not making the right moves. They're getting beat out in the market. And the developer community was really in a froth. It's a froth, foaming froth, kind of like a pit bulldog that's sick, right? It was the development community was in a froth. And these folks have been listening to the development community, learning about what developers need, and taking those next steps. And it's really, 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 I think, important. And so what Ryan ended up doing is coming to this conclusion that to onboard new people, they really needed to come up with this idea of a freemium model. We've talked about this before because if you want to have someone brand new to the community, so originally, and this is how we got to this, a little bit of history with this, is that Claris had a 30-day trial of FileMaker Pro for like 30 years. It's been around for a billion years, right? And then Ryan came in and goes, well, that's like old school, so we want to accelerate the sales process. And I go, okay. He goes, we're going to make that a 15-day process. So you get 15 days to try it out, and then you got to give us your money. And I'm like, I just sat back and was quiet, right? Because I was like, well, he knows more about sales than I do. He might be right, but my gut tells me that most customers don't want to be like super pressured like that. And so, of course, that didn't work out. Then they went to a 45-day trial, and then they've been looking at it and learning. And now they've come to the full conclusion that most of us have is that we really don't care about the single people using FileMaker. So we're going to give FileMaker Pro, or whatever we call Claris Pro, the Pro product, the professional product. We're going to give it to basically everyone for free. In fact, they're going to go a whole level beyond that and give it to them for free, along with a single seat of, I'm going to say this loosely, server, right? Plus Connect and some other amazing widgets and stuff. So it's this whole new architecture they're building. Pro, let me say this up front, Pro is not going away. FileMaker Pro, they might change the name FileMaker, get rid of the name, whatever, but fundamentally that is the professional tool set that we've had for a long time that we've been using. It's not going anywhere. In fact, it's being radically improved, but they're adding additional pieces to this to make things go better, right? And so professional, yeah. So because the rub is that it came up in a conversation they were having with a different interview, and I want to point out that was a great interview. If any of you catch the one with Proof Guys Proof. I was like, Guys Proof? No, it's Proof Guys. So it's Ernest Coe and Todd Guys kind of got together and combined the companies, and they did an interview with these guys, and they were talking about this. So it's an interesting interview. It's a broader interview where today is just about licensing. So I was talking to Ryan, and it came to I've spent a lot of time with him over the last week and a half, trying to really understand what his mindset is. And his mindset has moved on from this, it's FileMaker. Remember, FileMaker was $2.99, oh, no, $299, right? It was $300. It was $299 for a lot of years. And now it's like $540. They have to get past trying to sell single copies of this, right? And they kind of had done that, right? Um, but they were still selling it. And where, like, I've got a bunch of college students that come to work for us and they come to our program, and making sure those people have FileMaker for free, even if they're not with RCC or they're not with Saline or Proofgeist or Harmonic or whatever developer they're working with. If they're at their college using FileMaker, they need to have that thing for free. And so that's what Claris has come to this decision. So if you are a single user person and you share the data with no one, and I mean absolutely no one, right, then it's going to be free for you. It's not free today. It'll be free in the future when they get to that point, probably before the end of the year would be my guess. I don't have any dates on that. Um, so the goal with Ryan was one, we're going to remove the friction points, reasons for people to say no. Before the live stream started, we were talking to Christian Schmidt of Monkey Bread Software. Monkey Bread Software is a fantastic plugin. The FileMaker platform has limitations. We have to say no a lot. If you put the Monkey Bread plugin in the product, right, and add that to your tool set, you don't have to say no so often. Right. The other day we were taking screenshots, editing the screenshots, doing all this fancy stuff with it, creating thumbnails for videos, all automated that I threw together in a couple hours because I had the Monkey Bread plugin. Without that, I would have had to say no. So the idea, the modern term of saying yes and no to customers, they call it friction. Is it a friction point? If there's friction, it's like almost like the knife, right? So I got my pocket knife here. So let me bust it out. I think this is my broken pocket knife. This is my broken pocket knife. But my pocket knife, and you get these friction points, right? And so it's like, if hey, you want to use FileMaker, I'm going to download it. Okay, but it only works for a couple weeks. Cut yourself. You're snagged, right? And you want people to go over that smoothly like butter. You want them to not get snagged on a friction point. And that's why giving FileMaker to them for free is great. Now, the other thing, why we're here today, of course, it's taken me a long time to get here, is to talk about the Claris Problem Solver Circle. So one goal is to get brand new single people to use it. But what if you already have a company that's using FileMaker and say 10% of the company's using it or a single department's using it? And I say company, could be educational institution, nonprofit, some sort of organization. Okay, so I'm going to use the example of General Motors. General Motors is not my customer. I don't know that they use FileMaker. They probably do. And so the idea is that if the marketing department at General Motors is using a FileMaker solution for 20 or 30 people, if they come over here and they look at this and say, well, we have our own FileMaker server, and so what we can do is that we will do a 2-year renewal. A 2-year renewal. We'll pay a 30% premium on top of that. We will get FileMaker, all the products for FileMaker for a 2-year site license. So you can try it in other departments. This is a huge deal. If you're an in-house developer, this is a huge deal. If you're an outside consultant, you need to talk to your customers and see if they're interested in this. Some customers are kind of like, whatever. Some customers are very interested in expanding the benefits in FileMaker. Organization sees a benefit in FileMaker. It's faster. It saves time. It saves money. Where's my brick? So this is $50,000. If you build a good FileMaker solution, you can easily save $50,000. This is no joke. I've had a customer that built a solution, $40,000 or $50,000, and they've since that time have saved $30,000 every month, every month. And so with that kind of savings, in an organization, one department might want to go, oh, what'd you use for that? This Claris platform thing? Oh, can we try that? Yeah, it's free, because we got this 2-year Problem Solver Circle license. So this is actually a SKU at Claris. It's actually a product with a specific, you can get a quote on this. But the idea is that you are in an organization. So if you have 10 people and you have a 7-pack license or a 5-pack license or whatever, I'm not sure this makes sense for you. But if you have an organization and predominantly a bunch of people aren't using FileMaker, and you think there's the possibility that they could use FileMaker and experiment with it and see if there's an ROI, return on investment, they could have, then this is a program you want to think about very seriously. All right. Jacob Taylor, what are your thoughts on this process, since I'm sure typing real quick?
I think it's going to be pretty cool. I think there's a certain subset of the customer base that like this will be really good for them basically, because what they can do is take, all right, the marketing department, or maybe one of the manufacturing departments uses FileMaker. They do it day to day. Other people in the organization have heard about it, but yeah, there's licensing implications and stuff like that, so they haven't adopted it yet. This makes that really, really easy. In addition to the fact, and I think you're going to talk about this in a little bit, they get all the other extra stuff
Yeah, yeah,
that comes
yeah.
with this. It's not merely, pro and server and this sort of stuff. And cool, we'll build a CRM for this other department. Like it's much bigger than that. So
It is much bigger than that, but in the near term, yeah. So we'll talk about that a little bit. So for those of you who don't know Jacob, a lot of you know Jacob. Jacob is kind of like a baby version of Wim de Court, and that's kind of a compliment, or very much so a compliment. So Jacob does server installs, and infrastructure and deployment strategies with customers and big customers and small customers. And so
I do whatever people ask me to do
do,
stuff, and
but
I
yeah,
say yes.
you say yes, and he goes off and builds it. Um, so Jack the Ripper says, I could have used the guest with benefits 10 years ago in an HED market. Yeah, well, I understand it 10 years ago, and I'm happy Claris has got to this point. I know it's taken a little while, and the development community has had some therapy sessions amongst itself to deal with this, but they got there with it. And I'm thrilled that they're at this place with it. So real quick over here. So let's talk about this real quick. So I had an interesting kind of conversation with Claris about this the other day, and they didn't understand the question. So if I go to someone who's reasonably inexperienced, so who here has been using FileMaker for less than a year? I need someone in Discord who's been using FileMaker for less than a year. We're going to do a test on this to see if Richard is full of or not. Okay, I need one of you on Discord who's been using FileMaker for less than a year. Anyone? Anyone? No, on Discord, people here, mostly developers, right? Gadidi, Foxy Jack, been using it. Yeah. So the problem is that as people, some of you see this, or you don't want to be pointed out, they've been using it for less than a year. Andrew. Okay, Andrew, you were there. Really, Andrew? Okay. All right. So Andrew, I'd say less than a year. Okay. So if I and you can't think about this. Okay, put finger on the keyboard, Andrew. You ready? And Dirk, is that you too? Is that Dirk as well? Okay, can't hand on the keyboard. Me too. Okay, Blair, Andrew. I don't want you guys to look at what other people type. I'm going to ask a question real quick, and you just have to snapshot it off. It's like a snapshot, right? And so a snapshot being a sorry, it's an aviator term or a firearm term. It's a quick shot. It's like you're not even trying to aim. You're just thinking about. I just want your verbal. Okay, so if I say to a customer, hey, you're using FileMaker Pro with your team, 2-year site license. What do you get with the site license? Quick, fast, fast. What do you get with the site? Like quick, 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 quick. Don't think about it. Just do it. Just type, type, type. Okay, keep going. Okay, Andrew's got his answer in. Okay, keep going. Keep going. Blair,
We got
anyone
two
else?
answers so far. Yep.
Just those two? Okay. So this is my concern. Okay, you folks answered it the way I thought you would answer it, right? I tried to explain this to Claris, and they got mad at me, and they said, "Richard, it's redundant." And I'm like, "It's what's I said, if I say there's a 2-year site license, and you go to people, including people who've been using it for a year, I said this is not explanatory enough, and their response was to send me the end user legal agreement, 12 pages of lawyer talk. In force shall be known in this covenants in the state of California under paragraph section 5 of Penal Code 431 that if you use this software, you'll be licensed, therefore, under notwithstanding the use of nuclear weapons, nuclear power plants, or aviation. And I'm like, what? So they send me this document, right? And I said, if you're talking to customers, you can't do that because I got people like this over here. You can't see. I'm looking at my screen over here, my other screens where I'm managing, right? I've got all these conversations going over here, and Andrew and Blair answered it the way I thought they would, right? It's nothing's wrong. That you answered it correctly per your knowledge. A 2-year site license, according to Claris, is everything, kind of. So Andrew said it's pro only. No, it's everything. It's not everything, and it's not pro only. Both those answers are wrong. So according to Claris, A 2-year site. So I instead of me I just wanted to test to make sure I wasn't high on crack, because so what I did is I helped everyone out with this. So what you have is there's two sides of this when you're going to quote it to a customer. Okay, and so your customer's not going to understand this as a developer. So you, Andrew, Blair, whoever's been doing this, if you're going to talk to a customer about it, so one, you got a customer says has 100 people, 10 people are using FileMaker. They're kind of a proactive company and they want to grow and they see the benefits of FileMaker. One, then in your brain you know this is a good thing for them if they want to do it. Two, you're going to come over here and you're going to have a conversation. I'm giving you these slides. The slide, that little toolkit, does not contain my crib notes in it. The little arrow in here is Richard trying to keep you out of trouble. So the customer's not going to understand what they get. So a 2-year site license is Pro, Go, and FileMaker, Pro, Go, and WebDirect and FileMaker Server. Unlimited usage for your corporation. So that, and loosely you would say that your corporation are people with, I would just say, do they have an email account from your corporation? So if it's General Motors, if it's Fred Smith at generalmotors.com, then he would be probably covered under that. This is kind of a loose answer, right? So Pro, Go, and WebDirect and FileMaker Server. It doesn't cover Cloud 2. So Cloud is kind of this vaporous kind of term that actually in retrospect is even more confusing now than it used to be. So FileMaker Server, if Claris turns it into a service, is called Cloud, and the current major version of that is 2. So we call it 2 because there is documentation that says Cloud 1 and Cloud 2 on the documentation, so you want that. So over here, the price is different. The price is different over here if you're using FileMaker Cloud. So if you host your solution up with FileMaker Cloud, and you should know whether you are or not, right? Do you have your own FileMaker server, or does Claris, the corporation, handle that for you, right? So the price is a little different. So it's a 2-year renewal, and you pay an extra 30%. So if you have 10 people, whatever, a 10 pack, what's a 10 pack of FileMaker for annually, right? It's like $2,200, something like that. Jacob Taylor, about?
Think of five.
A
Yes.
5 is like 900 or something.
Five's
Right?
900. It's
So
not. It's less than double.
it's less than double. So it'd be
Not
probably
1800. It's a little
like
less
17 something.
for a server
So it'd be
5 pack.
17
Yeah.
something for a 10 pack plus 30% more. So 30% would be another $600 or something. So if you did a 2-year renewal, instead of spending 17 and change on it, you spend 23 or 24 and change on it. You get 2 years for your entire corporation. It's a hugely positive deal. This is great. I love it. I love it. I love it. So there's Margaret putting the link there for everyone as well. Um, so understand that if you're going to pitch this to a customer, you say you get a 2-year site license, expect to follow that up with some details, because not explain to them what it is a friction point, right? We're like, hey, let's remove friction points, right? So in the process of removing a friction point, we put a new one up there. No, don't. No new friction points. Explain it to them and tell them, explain how it works. Most of my customers use FileMaker Server because FileMaker Cloud over here does have some limitations. Totally separate conversation. Jacob is here. If we have another day where we do open Q&A on server, we're happy to talk about those things.
Yep. If you have any questions, shoot them in an email.
Or if you have an immediate question about, hey, cloud versus server, then because they both run in the cloud, but one is the Claris's service kind of thing that they do, and then the other one is one where you roll your own, and there's different positives and negatives to each of those. So moving along my slide deck here, if I can make that actually happen. So problem solver circle. Oh, the graphic came in here late. I was wondering about that. So let's talk about eligibility, right? Eligibility. Would it make a sense for a junior developer to join? It's okay. So the program. Okay, so here's the problem with this right here. The problem solver circle program. It's really a 2-year site license for a company. It's not really a program for a developer for you as a developer to join, right? You already have, if you're working, Andrew's working at a consultancy at Harmonic in Dallas, good company from what I understand. They should provide you already with the licenses, but say that Andrew. So who is Kyle Williams is here. Kyle Williams is here. Kyle Williams is an in-house developer at a massage therapy place, and he took a lateral transfer to Victoria's Secret. So if Kyle's at either the massage place or at Victoria's Secret working as an in-house developer, this is still good for you. You don't have to be an outside consultant. If you're an in-house consultant and you know that only the marketing department at Victoria's Secret is using FileMaker, and you know that sales and operations, because they have to have all this clothing manufactured and shipped. It's a big deal. Catalogs, order, fulfillment. I mean, it's a massive undertaking. FileMaker could probably really help that organization. So if he's in there in the marketing department, he buys one of these two pretty inexpensively, and suddenly for 2 years, every employee at Victoria's Secret can use the product completely without additional cost. There's no cost to that. All the cost is Kyle's time to help build something for them so that it becomes a labor issue, right? But the licensing issue is removed. It's no longer a friction point, right? Let's talk about eligibility real quick. So where it makes sense. So fundamentally, you understand the concept here. Forget about all the other stuff that Claris talked about last week. Forget freemium. Forget all the other stuff they said. Forget everything. Just focus on where would this be good. This is good if you have an organization where only a group or a subgroup, somehow this group of people are using a license for FileMaker, at least a 5-pack. I call it like a pack, but 5 seats of FileMaker or Claris, whatever, Pro, right? At least 5 of them are using it. And then there's a broader group there that could use it, that might be interested in using it, right? To save time and money because maybe they're still using some other piece of software that sucks, or they're even so old as using post-it notes and spreadsheets and stuff like that. So, Organdine says, we use 2 seats of FileMaker Pro, 1 developer plus 1 user plus 1 seat of Linux server for our rare disease nonprofit work. Our current license expire. Would this apply? So basically, you have to have an active license, active licensed customers with less than 2 years to expiration. So it's not really for single. You could talk to them, right, about it. If you bought a 2-year, I would call and talk to them about that. So I don't know who Claris to send. That's a really good question. Who Claris we find it? I could find out, but what you would do is you would probably say, I want to buy, because I'm trying to grow this out in the company, but there's only 5 of us. Just buy a 5-pack with a 2-year renewal plus a 30% premium, and then you could get it for the entire organization down there or something, right? If you're trying to really open this up and Claris wants to open it up and they see it as an opportunity. If you go to Claris and say, hey, this is an opportunity and this is what we have and we could grow this out, I don't really think that they're going to say no to that. Right? I mean, so some of you are SBA people. A bunch of you here have SBA solutions. That's where you're trying to make a solution and resell it. Scott Kane, if Scott's here, I don't even know the list. My list is a long list today. Scott Kane, yeah, Scott's here. Another person that called out was asking about this, and of course, they called Claris, and I said, I don't think it applies to SBA. Oh, I'll call Claris. They called Claris, and Claris said, yeah, it works just great. You just have to buy it under FBA licensing. And so there was a phone conversation that I can't swear to this phone conversation. It's one of the things I'm trying to get with Claris to verify. But the idea was, it was kind of a good term, near term. But for SBA, this would really be useful. And you could sell a lot of this with solution bundle agreement. Because Scott Kane has a roofing solution. So Scott Kane has a 5-pack or a 10-pack or whatever he has. And he buys that on a 2-year with an expansion, or with this 30%, he goes back up here and he buys this thing over here. Then Claire said, you can run this out on the phone. They said this. I'm waiting for verification. They said that you could pitch this to as many people as you want, and in 2 years, you have to kind of straighten out. So what happens, you get a 2-year window to go bonkers with this. And then after 2 years comes up, I'm going to bring up the next slide one more time. What you're going to have is you're going to have this, let me see, one more slide. There it is. You're going to have to true up, what we call true up, which means that you're going to go to Claris and say, yeah, we started with, so let's talk about Oregon Dean with a nonprofit up there in Oregon. He says he has 5 users. Let's just say he has five. And we've expanded this out to 20 people, right? Then Claris would say, well, how do we want to license those 20 people? Because now they need to kind of get some sort of license. And so the license would be either you buy a 20 pack for them, or if the entire group is 20 people, like say you have a company of 20 or 25 people, uh, you could buy a baby site license for that group and pay just for that, right? So the cheapest way to go is to buy a site license, but I think the minimum site license size is 25, right? That's what RCC has. We have a 25 seat site license. So, question from Media Sandbox on YouTube for 30% deal. How is Studio single sign-on serve without cloud, right? So I don't have the answers to those. So let's talk about a little bit about this program a little bit, okay? And this came up with some other conversations. So what Claris did is that to make this more amazing and juicy and all that other stuff, what they have done is that what they're trying to do is bring the entire platform together. And Pro is still Pro, so just take it to the bank. Pro is still Pro, Server is still Server, and then what they're trying to do is create this new online side of the operation. They already had Claris Connect. They're trying to bundle that to Claris Connect with their new technology that they called internally Magnolia. Not sure why it's named after a flower. I have no idea, but it's basically the ability to create. Is to start build a very easy onboarding process for users to experiment with FileMaker and to come in the platform. Right now, if you want to learn about the FileMaker platform, you find someone like Richard who gives you a 30-day class on how to adapt the CRM. That's the smoothest, best, most high-value way of I can think of getting people in the platform. Well, probably towards the end of the year at some point, Claris is going to turn loose what they call the Claris Studio. This Claris Studio is essentially everything else for the most part in terms of this online ability to build a web form. So say Ken, the hot air balloon guy, Ken, who manages a nonprofit, he has a 5-pack or 10-pack or whatever, and say that he eventually buys the Claris Studio, right? This complete platform of stuff. He would get Claris Connect if he needs that as part of it, but he would also have the ability to build public-facing web forms. How many times we talked about public-facing web forms be a giant pain in the ass? Well, that's one of the first problems that Claris Studio solves. So it's an online system. It talks to FileMaker. Behind the scenes. So when you open a FileMaker server or FileMaker cloud behind the scenes and you're collecting that hot air balloon data over here, it becomes a table of data that you can see. So you have your CRM and suddenly down here you have hot air balloon registrations or something, right? That's a big deal. So so that's kind of where that goes. I see Oregon Dean's question. I will loop back to that. I don't want to just for the moment. So the idea is that this was the problem with last week. They announced this is only maybe a third to half of what they announced last Tuesday. It was too much. So we're having a 1-hour conversation, slowly talking about the Claris Studio. I don't have the Claris Studio yet. I asked for the Claris Studio. They said, Richard, you're important to us. We're going to have you test Claris Studio and show it to people. I don't have it yet. So I don't have a question about how this stuff bolts together or how to use it. Some people out there have been playing with early prototypes of this thing. I have a very full schedule, as most of you know. I only wanted to play with it as it got closer to beta, which I think is kind of where they're at with this thing. I didn't want to play with it as alpha because I've been playing with alpha versions of Magnolia for prototypes and talking about them for like 2 or 3 years. So it's been this kind of ongoing conversation, and I kind of got tired of beating my head against the wall on looking at software that was never going to come out. So now that they're in the process of wanting to ship this thing, so theoretically the Claris Studio, once again, it's not really immediately something you have to worry about right here. Claris Studio is going to be this thing that comes out probably before the end of the year at some point, right? Probably the fall, but who really knows? And the Claris Studio is going to have this ability to do all the stuff that you do now, but add this ability for public-facing web forms. So public-facing, collect data, probably a basic search function, I'm guessing. I know that they want to have that kind of capability. And so we're going to start to see more of this next week. I'm supposed to get it next week and play with it, and then I have to ask them at what point do you want me to show it to the live stream. But the idea is that if you buy into this program as a very side benefit, you get access to that software early. But it's not final, and I don't know that you'd want to hang your hat on it for the next, till the end of the year, right? It's fun to play with, but really the benefit today, and for the next 2 years is that you take the solutions that you already have and you can expand those with other people in your organization. And that, at the end of the day, is really what the problem solver circle is all about. So that's kind of this idea. The fact that they're giving you early access to the software to me is really kind of a minor thing. Some people are like, "Hey, I want to get in here so I can get access to that early software." It's it's really, you're looking at it the wrong way, right? It's really designed for people who don't already have a site license. They have at least a 5-pack of FileMaker. They want to expand it in the organization. Probably before I would pull the trigger on it, I would make sure that there was some sort of interest within the organization to actually do this. Because sometimes people say, "Yeah, we'll do it," then they never return your phone call, right? So you want to make sure that internally there's some buy-in commitment in the organization. If you're an in-house developer, so you're Kyle at Victoria's Secret, he goes to the manager of the marketing department and he says, "Hey, this is working really great." They go, "Yes, it is." And so are there other departments that are interested in it? And they go, "Yes" or "No," right? Or maybe, right? Maybe is a good enough, right? Maybe is like, well, maybe if we could get it and try it out for free, well, then Kyle has the answer. He's an in-house developer. He knows how to expand in the organization. Not only that, he's doing more projects. Kyle's value to Victoria's Secret goes way up because now instead of this one department that's using him, he's in use by 5 departments. Now Kyle's super important. They might even buy him a car, give him a title of vice president. Who knows what happens, right? So they're saying late 2022 in the fall. Yes, that's as far as I can go with that in terms of when will Claris Studio be available. So Claris Studio, once again, is this idea of this. They've been talking about this in a very serious sort of way since September of last year when they talked about, they kept calling it the new stuff, right? So the title, it was we've talked about this after, we here on the live stream had chats with all you folks about this, right? It was like, Brad's talking about this and Peter Nelson's talking about this and Robert Halsey's talking about this. And they were talking about, oh, Mongo database, this, that, and the other thing. In the 10-year vision, maybe, is that they take FileMaker and over the next, say, 5 years or 10 years or however long it takes, I think it's easier said than done. I think they're finding that out, is that we take FileMaker and we build it all in a web browser interface. So you can run it all in a web browser. Not like WebDirect. I'm talking about full development, except that no other tools really kind of do that. Like if you look at Xcode, Xcode is in a lot of ways, kind of comparable to some degree of what FileMaker is. There's a high degree of sophistication and capability in there. It's not easy just to scrape that off and stick it on the web. If it was easy, Claris would have done it already. So FileMaker Pro is the pro tool that will connect and talk to all the back end of the Cloud Studio. So if you collect data there, you have Claris Connect that talks. So someone submits a web form. The web form does a connect and talks to the Federal Aviation Administration for Kin Thule. So hot air balloon. Kin, we're making fun of hot air balloons. They actually do issue pilot licenses for hot air balloons. And so Kin has a big event. They want to check everyone to make sure that they have a current medical. It's not, when you have a pilot's license, it never really expires unless you die. But what happens is you have a medical. So for me, it's every 12 months I have to take a medical because I'm a commercial pilot, and they have to take a medical however long they do it, every year or 2, 5 years. And so they get a card, and I have mine in my wallet, it says your medical. But they can verify that with the FAA. So if he took a public form on Claris Studio, someone says, "I want to attend your event, and here's a picture of my driver's license, a picture of my pilot's license, a picture of my medical certificate," so like containers of data, right? And then that submits into this back-end system, which is this Mongo database, doesn't matter, it's up in the cloud. And then that data is available to FileMaker Pro to see on the Pro user interface, which means GoPro, WebDirect, all those people can see that data, right? Because it's talking, right? It's talking. The backends that the systems are talking. Cloud is talking to Claris Studio, or FileMaker Server is talking to Claris Studio. Yeah, so he collects 9 different items for the event. So 9 containers for Ken. I remember talking to Ken about this about a year ago, and I remember the medical. So, but then you could have Claris Connect in there, which is this API kind of pre-built thing that helps you make API connections easier, right? it has some utility. It's not perfect. It has some utility. If you could get it to talk to the FAA, so here goes the person's information. What public data can you come back with? Like you can look up certain information about me and my medical records if you know either my social security or my pilot's license number or something like that, right? You could look that up and see my last medical date, right? My medical is due actually in 3 weeks for my commercial. So I got to go take my medical. So very exciting. Kyle Williams, Andrew Gonzalez. So Kyle's talking about his job at the massage place and also at Victoria's Secret. Very good. All right, cool. Other question. Oh, there was a question about nonprofits. So this program is new. I don't really get the impression that they're trying to do nonprofit pricing and things like that on this. I don't. You could ask them, send an email to sales@claris.com, I guess, right? Would be a place to ask. But generally, the idea is that if you already have a site license, then why would you do this? If you have a customer that they're totally expired and they're not current at all, then how does that help? That's not good for them. SBA, I think in the future they're going to find a way of doing that. That would be great. Um, and then in terms of like Oregon Dean he had a copy of the FDS, the FileMaker Developer subscription. Um, and then he had another couple copies of Pro and then a copy of Server somehow. So I would say talk to Claris about that, and if there's a business case for Claris to see an upsell on this, they will do it, right? If they say if you've got 5 people now and it could grow into 20 people or something, I think they'd be all over that. I really do. Media Sandbox wants to know how Studio and single sign are served without cloud. My understanding, and I'm gonna from what I understand, is that the Claris customer console. So for those of you familiar with FileMaker Cloud, I could probably, I'm done with this slideshow essentially at this point. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to go to a browser. I'm going to go to Claris Cloud and see what comes up. So here's Claris Connect, Claris FileMaker. So would Cloud be under FileMaker, I guess? I mean, I don't navigate this website that terrible much. How do we find, there it is, Cloud. I guess I was there. I am there. Okay, so here's Claris Cloud. So part of Claris Cloud, you don't really see it here. This is like a big pitch. Yeah. And by the way, this is a little misleading. I want to slap someone for this. So anyway, but yes. Yes. Yeah, you don't really see it here. So back up. So everyone you log into FileMaker Server, there's a FileMaker Server administrative interface. So you see the people connected, you see the databases, the files that are on there. You see who's currently connected. Yeah, currently connected. You see the backup schedules, things like manage backups and things like that, and the files. So that interface for FileMaker Server also exists for FileMaker Cloud. It's changed a little bit, but largely you can tell they're the same server interface. On top of that, on Claris Cloud, you also have the Claris Customer Console (CCC), which is where you manage the users who log in and their IDs. So you manage the customers. You also manage your subscription and your license. So there's really 2 web interfaces. When you talk about Claris Cloud, there's 2 web interfaces for it. One to manage the people and your subscription, and the other one really to manage the server and the files that are being hosted, if that makes sense. And so the Claris Customer Console is capable of managing more than the cloud. It's being connected to other things. Well, I think I thought I saw a screenshot of it at some point where the Claris Customer Console is managing Claris Studio, and the cloud is just part of that. So cloud is part of that studio, if that makes any sense. If you buy that, right? Because that's once again back to that slideshow. Claris if Claris sells you their normal package with FileMaker Server, they're just selling you software. They're not selling you any hardware or renting you or leasing you any hardware or server space. If you buy cloud, they take their software, they load it on the server for you, and they bill you for both the hardware and the server. So it's what they call SaaS, SaaS, software as a service, right? And so they combine the hardware, the software together, server. It's more expensive. They have to write a check to Amazon to run that server for you. So that's why it's more money, if that makes any sense.
Two
Yes.
questions from YouTube. So IT Gaming Access, how many users can access the database at the same time?
Claris, well, okay, so, okay, okay, so today, as in like tactically today, um, up through 400 people, I've done 400 or 500 people on a FileMaker server successfully using our CRM, which is designed for scalability and performance. Claris is talking about future releases supporting more people simultaneously. I haven't tested that claim. Claris has always been kind of nervous about making claims about how many people could use their stuff simultaneously.
Yeah.
I just know that they said like 2,000. The other day they were like 2,000 can use it, and I'm like, what kind of
It's
unicorn
yeah.
blood did you recycle to put in the product to get it to do that? That makes no sense.
They're bumping it. So most of the platforms right now, WebDirect is special. Oh, sorry. Let me put my camera on so you can see me talking.
Yeah, you're just like,
It
there we
kept
go.
freezing, so I like killed it. So so today, and I'll just say WebDirect is special because it requires a funky configuration to actually do this. But in general, each platform can do up to like 500 connections.
Each server
So
can do
each
that.
server, sorry,
Yes.
yeah. So and we'll say there's a forthcoming release, and it is not the one that we are expecting very shortly. It is the one after that. Will theoretically do 1,000. I'm not going to quote anybody on that, but that's what they're telling us. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's exciting.
we ain't seen it yet, so I'm not sure what their strategy is. So,
Yeah,
because
I'm
that was
honestly
the thing
one of the
last week. We could have a conversation just on all the technical that was promised last week, just the technical stuff.
yeah.
That was way too. If it was the funniest thing, I've never. It's like they had pent up announcements. They like they. It's like 5 to 10 years of DevCon keynotes in 10 minutes. So
In
there was 10
20 minutes.
minutes of that. There was actually 10 minutes of announcements and then 10 minutes of Andy wordsmithing the shit out of everything, which was great. He's really good at it. And I sat there and I have to get a transcript of it. It was so good. I could write it down on cue cards so I can repeat it. It was that good. It was really good. I mean it positively. I just like, but way beyond my limited IQ and capability, right? So,
I want Peter to come talk about how they're getting from 500 to 1,000
I don't know if Peter
because that's
knows.
probably an interesting story itself. I don't what I don't know is if essentially that performance is already in 19 and it's there's some incremental a recertification happens, etc., or if this future potential version of FileMaker is just absolutely screamingly faster. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
whichever, it's all good. So, but
Other questions, Margaret? We're gonna need to kind of land the
Yes.
airplane.
Peter Boyce, was the offer for Problem Solver Circle limited to the first 500 question mark, or am I
Okay,
confused?
okay. I'm gonna pretend I'm Claris for the second, okay, and then I will pretend I'm not Claris, okay. So where's the problem solver? Where'd it go? So yeah, so if you come over here and you look at the slides, it's like the fine print at the bottom, okay. So so they're gonna be like, hey. So this is limited to the first 500 people. You better get here like right now before before it sells out. And 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 I understand that's kind of like basic sales marketing, So, I mean, listen, this is pretty amazing. If you need it. If you don't need it, don't buy it, right? But it's pretty amazing. I would say probably a quarter of the people out there to a third of the people have a 5 pack or bigger probably could use this. But once again, if you have questions about it, email us and ask us that. But if 500 people come to Claris and say, "Here's our money," and then someone else comes and says, "Oh, here's my money too," Claris is going to say, "I'm sorry, I don't want your money. I don't want your credit." It's like, hey, you're going to show up and so. Yeah, I mean, realistically, right? So this is a $50,000 stack of cash. So let me just move this out of here for everyone so we have this all straight. So 50,000. So here's 10 grand right here. This is legitimately 10 grand, okay? Here's 10 grand right here. Hey, Claris, could you include me in the program? I'll be number 521. And they're like, oh, no, we don't want that $50,000 there, I mean, I'd be happy to take it, no problem. So. All right, Jack the Ripper, great discretion stuff to mull over. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good conversation. Talk to your customers about it. Talk to your users about it. If you have questions about this, you want to ask our opinion, which you pretty much already know what it is. It's good. Shoot an email to support@RC Consulting, and then I myself or one of the tech support people will get back to you. If you want to buy this from Claris, go to Claris and buy it. If you want us to help you get it procured and buy it with RCC, we can have our sales guy, our license guy help you with that. It won't be a problem. Although he is getting married in 2 weeks, and I think his head is not entirely all there, but we will try to help that process through. Getting married and his brain is kind of like, right? So there we go. Oregon Dean, any other questions? Yep, nope. All right, there we go.
I think we got everything.
I think we got everything.
Did we get all the other questions, Margaret? That was
Yes, YouTube and Twitch has been quiet. I think YouTube is golden, so
Yeah.
handled. Cool.
Good. All
We are
right, Jeff
free.
Myers, Rick Fosnot, IT Gaming. How many users can access a database at the same time? More users than you probably have. That's kind of the conversation we're having. But right now, today, if you build the solution correctly with some of our training, 400, 500. And then our strategy long term was to do replication. We do replication with 360works products, and they get multiple servers, so you get increments of that. But Claris is saying they can put more on one server, or they imply that. I don't know if they actually said that, but they kind of implied that. So we'll have to see. So,
Do you mean about the change with the new version of the product, or separately?
Yeah, he wasn't clear about that.
Okay.
Yeah, IT Gaming wasn't clear, and Claris wasn't clear. So, any other
got it.
questions from anyone else? We're good.
We're good.
Good. All right. Yeah, everyone have a good weekend. A reminder that. Yes.
Are we going to see this, say, here in Australia?
Oh, okay. So real quick. So we didn't mention this. So Claris, this thing starts off in the United States in terms of Claris. Okay, back up. The PSC, this program, this 2-year licensing is worldwide. Okay. In terms of you getting access to the Claris Studio, initially the Claris Studio is being deployed in the United States at a data center, and it's going to be loaded in data centers in Australia and Japan and other places like that, in Europe, obviously. I don't know how long that will take, but that's pretty high on their priority list. Peter kept mentioning it as something that's kind of hanging over his head that he wants to get handled. But that's, getting a big contract set up. It's basically Apple getting a contract to host a bunch of stuff in a data center, essentially. Because remember, this is Claris, only in so much as then it becomes Apple, right? Because that's really kind of the organization you're dealing with. So that's a priority. You're going to see it. But at the end of the day, the studio part is new. It's beta. It's fun to play with, but I wouldn't hang your hat on it. What you want to sell, if you're interested in selling this or promoting it to your organization, is that we get to take whatever we're having now, server or cloud, whatever we're using, and we get to roll it out to the entire rest of the organization. Everyone can use it for 2 years with no additional costs, okay? And so it's not really about studio in the near term. So PSC is really about this 2-year site license thing, right? Maybe in 6 months or 12 months, then the studio becomes this really big, critically, gotta have it. It's like crack. But today it's beta. So, yep. IT Gaming has another question. So, is it necessary when using the internet to be able to use? Okay, so more of a basic question database.
It's a sync. It's a sync question. Do you need to be online for it?
Yeah. So
Kinda.
the FileMaker out of the box, if the database is on a server somewhere on the cloud, right? To access it, you have to have real-time internet access. If you don't want to have real-time internet access, then you need to look at a third-party product like 360works MirrorSync, which we use and we endorse. It adds cost, but that allows you offline access to your database. We have live stream videos. We talk about that at great length. So
I mean, it'll do what you're expecting with that once you build it. You go out into the field, collect your data, do whatever you're doing, and then you get back and you're on Wi-Fi or whatever at the end of the day, and hit your
push a button and it's gonna take care of that.
Sync everything. Yep.
Cool. Right. Those are good questions. Hey, so IT Gaming Access, you definitely want to be at our 30-day CRM for beginner kind of conversation. That's totally designed for you.
Starts May 16th.
May 16th. There we go. All right. Cool. All right, everyone. I'll see you next time. See ya. Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!